They didn't just miss my wedding. They chose not to come. My parents, my sister, even my best friend since college. They skipped the most important day of my life to attend my younger sister's engagement party, a party she intentionally planned on the same day, same time, down to the exact hour. As I stood at the altar, in a gown I picked out alone, staring at empty rows where my family should have been, I felt the kind of heartbreak you don't scream about. You swallow it. You let it settle in your bones. And you wait. Because people like that, they think you'll break. But I didn't. Not even close. And they had no idea what I was about to do next. Hi, my name is Dr. Emily Caldwell. I'm 32, a trauma surgery resident at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. I've stitched up shattered rib cages, held hearts between my palms, and delivered bad news more times than I can count. But nothing prepared me for the pain of being betrayed by the people who were supposed to love me most. You want to know the wildest part? I wasn't even angry at first. I was numb. I was used to being forgotten. But this time, something inside me snapped. Not in rage, not in revenge, but in clarity. This wasn't just about a ruined wedding. This was about a lifetime of being made invisible. And for the first time, I wasn't going to let it slide. So before I walk you through what happened and how I turned every betrayal into a reckoning, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been the afterthought? The one they only remember when it's convenient? Then stay with me. Because this story, it's not just mine it's for anyone who's ever felt like they were standing alone while everyone cheered for someone else. If this hits home, pause for a second, tap that like button, leave a comment below if you've ever been the black sheep in your family, and hit subscribe. I promise you, it gets better. But not before it gets worse. We need to go back a bit. Because this wedding disaster wasn't born overnight. It was the final act in a slow, silent heartbreak that started decades ago. I grew up in the kind of Upper East Side townhouse you see in movies. Cream-colored curtains, grand piano in the foyer, weekly ballet recitals, summer homes in the Hamptons. To the outside world, we were the perfect family, the Caldwells. David and Marlene, my parents ran a boutique financial firm together. Mom handled legacy clients. Dad sat on 3 different charity boards. They were always busy, always dressed, always polished. And then there was her, Avery, my younger sister by 3 years, golden hair, porcelain skin, the kind of child who walked into a room and people just noticed. She was born to be seen. And I was born to disappear. They never said it out loud, but kids know. They feel it. When Avery won her first dance trophy, we threw a backyard party. When I got into Harvard Medical School, my mom said, "That's nice, honey. Don't forget to call your grandmother." There were 1,000 moments like that. I remember one Thanksgiving. I got an award from the state medical board. Avery went viral on TikTok that same day for making pumpkin bread in a crop top. Guess who got a standing ovation at dinner? Yeah. I used to tell myself it didn't matter, that my work spoke for itself, that saving lives in operating rooms held more weight than Instagram likes. But it hurt. It chipped away at something inside me, something I didn't know I needed until it was too late. Still, I kept going. I earned scholarships, finished undergrad early, got into residency, and somewhere along the way, I stopped expecting anything from my family. That was the only way to survive it. Until I met Ethan. He was a social worker in the pediatric ward. Quiet, observant, the kind of man who didn't try to fix you, just saw you clearly. I remember the first time I told him about Avery. He looked me in the eye and said, "That's not sibling rivalry. That's emotional neglect." I didn't cry. I just nodded. Because when someone names your pain, you don't need to cry. You feel validated. We dated for 2 years. And on our anniversary, he proposed. Not with a flash mob, not with hidden cameras, just us, on a rooftop, under city lights, with a ring tucked inside a dog-eared copy of Jane Austen's Persuasion. He knew that was my favorite book. Because he listened. I said yes. And for a moment, just a flicker, I believed my family might show up for me this time. I called them the next day. Mom, Dad, I'm engaged. Silence. Then a slow, "Oh, that's nice. Sweetie, have you told your sister yet?" I smiled through clenched teeth. Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. They said congratulations. But it felt like they were congratulating a distant cousin, not their daughter. Still, I held on to hope. I sent out invitations. Picked a venue near Central Park. Kept it small, just 70 people. And of course, I invited Avery. She didn't respond for 3 weeks. When she finally did, it was with an Instagram post, a photo of her kissing her boyfriend with the caption, "The only date that matters, March 23rd. Save it." My wedding date was March 23rd. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. She picked up. "Hey, Em, can I call you back? I'm in the middle of picking out florals." "Avery, are you having your engagement party the same day as my wedding?" Pause, then laughter. "Oh my God, was that your date? I totally forgot. But, you'll understand, right? Everyone's expecting me to throw something big. It's just one day." I was stunned, but not surprised. Still, I asked her, begged her not to do it. She said she'd see what she could do. The next morning, she posted her official invite. Time 4 p.m. Same time as my ceremony. She didn't even try to pretend. She knew exactly what she was doing. And my parents, they RSVP'd to her, not to me. I wish I could say I screamed, that I tore up the invite, that I gave some fiery speech about boundaries. But I didn't. I sat in the break room at work, stared at my phone, and whispered, "Of course." Because when you grow up invisible, the silence feels like home. But this time, it wouldn't stay quiet. Not for long. You'd think that would have been the breaking point, right? My sister publicly planning her engagement party to overlap my wedding like it was nothing. But in my family, nothing is ever said out loud. They don't scream. They don't fight. They just pretend. Pretend it's all normal. Pretend it's all love. Pretend the silence isn't screaming. So when Avery posted her glittery invite with the caption, "So grateful to celebrate this love with the people who matter most," I didn't reply. I didn't comment. I didn't call. I waited. I waited to see what my parents would do. And they did exactly what I was afraid of. They liked the post. Then reposted it. Then added, "Couldn't be prouder of our baby girl. Can't wait to celebrate you." No mention of my wedding. Not even a quiet congratulations in the comments. I remember sitting at my desk at the hospital charting vitals after a 10-hour trauma shift and seeing those words glowing on my phone. It felt like a slap. Not a hard one, just the kind you've already felt 1,000 times before. The kind that doesn't leave a bruise, just a slow ache. I texted Rachel that night. She was my best friend, my old college roommate, a rising star lawyer with a wicked sense of humor and a deep love for red wine and revenge documentaries. If anyone understood family dysfunction, it was her. I sent her a screenshot of the post and just wrote, "What do I even do?" She replied, "You get married. You wear that stunning dress. You marry the man who adores you. And you let the rest rot." I smiled. That was always Rachel, fierce, unapologetic, the kind of woman who could cut through drama with one sharp sentence. She was going to be my maid of honor. We'd already planned it out. She'd make a speech. She'd hold my flowers. She'd zip me into my dress. She'd stand beside me, because no one else would. And for a while, that gave me peace. Ethan was solid through it all. He didn't press. He didn't try to fix it. He just listened. When I told him about Avery's party, how it lined up perfectly with our wedding, he didn't even blink. He just reached across the couch, took my hand, and said, "So what do you want to do?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What should we do?" He asked me, and that mattered more than he probably knew. Because in my family, no one ever asked me what I wanted. They just assumed. They assumed I'd understand. They assumed I'd be fine. They assumed I'd always adjust. But not Ethan. I told him I wanted to move forward. No delays. No drama. Just us. And the people who chose to be there. He nodded. Then that's what we'll do. And just like that, I started planning my wedding without my family. It was painful, sure. But weirdly freeing, too. I didn't have to explain color palettes to my mother. Didn't have to pretend to care about seating charts for people who never called me on my birthday. I picked the flowers I liked, white lilies and dusty blue hydrangeas. I found a local band that played acoustic versions of 90s love songs. I chose a little venue tucked between brownstones in the West Village, with string lights over the courtyard and floor-to-ceiling windows that caught the morning light like stained glass. It was us. Not perfect, not extravagant, but warm, honest, real. Rachel helped me with everything. Dresses, favors, invitations. She even helped me rewrite my vows when I panicked 2 weeks before the big day. "You're overthinking," she said, sipping her 4th glass of wine. "Just tell him what you love about him, what he does that no one else does." So I did. I wrote it down on the back of a napkin while she dictated ideas and reminded me to breathe. That's what I held on to in those last few weeks. That napkin. That night. That small, real, uncomplicated love. Because everything else, it was falling apart. Calls with my parents grew shorter. Eventually, they stopped answering. Every time I tried to confirm if they were coming, my mom gave vague answers. "We'll try our best." "Your father's got something with the firm that week." "We'll have to see." But I knew. I knew from the moment Avery posted her RSVP-only link with a gold-embossed header, "A night to remember the engagement of Avery Caldwell and Patrick Sullivan." I knew from the way Dad ignored my emails. I knew from the way Mom changed the subject every time I brought up the rehearsal dinner. They weren't coming. They never planned to. And yet I still held out hope. That's the twisted thing about family. They disappoint you over and over again. And somehow, you still hope. It wasn't until I opened my mailbox one rainy Thursday that the last piece fell into place. Inside was an envelope, heavy, gold-lined, reeking of vanilla perfume. Avery's invitation. Not to me, to my fiancé's parents. She sent it directly to Ethan's family's home in Connecticut. As if to say, just in case you wanted to pick a side. And the worst part, inside the card, in handwritten script, were the words, "Can't wait to celebrate with you. So sorry about the conflict with Emily's little wedding." Little wedding. Not her big day. Not your daughter-in-law's ceremony. Just little. Like it was a picnic. A backyard potluck. An inconvenience. Ethan's mom was furious. She called me immediately. "You want me to respond?" she asked. "Because I'll respond." I laughed through my tears. "No, let's just ignore it. That's what they're best at. Anyway." But Linda didn't ignore it. Instead, she drove down that weekend with her husband, brought me flowers, and sat me down in our apartment like I was her own daughter. "You are part of our family now," she said, "and we don't skip weddings. We show up." I cried that night, the kind of cry you don't even realize you're holding in until someone tells you you matter. It wasn't about the guest count. It wasn't about the food or the dress or the photos. It was about being seen. It was about finally being someone's priority. And for the first time, I started to feel like maybe I could let go of the dream I'd clung to for so long. The dream that my parents would change. The dream that Avery would see me as a sister, not a rival. The dream that I could have a family without having to beg for a seat at the table. I was building something new, something better. And I had no idea that just days later, it would all come crashing down again. Only this time, it wouldn't be just my family. This time, it would be Rachel. The final week before the wedding was supposed to be beautiful. Final fittings, last-minute details, that excited, nervous feeling in your chest that says, something good is coming. But for me, it was dread. The silence from my family was louder than ever. No RSVP, no confirmation, no questions about timing or directions or attire. Just nothing. Rachel was the only constant. She stayed over the night before the rehearsal dinner, helped me practice my vows again, even brought champagne and those ridiculous under-eye masks shaped like stars. "You're glowing," she told me, snapping a picture of me mid-laugh, like actual main character energy. I smiled, but something inside me didn't quite believe it. Still, I held on to her, to Ethan, to the pieces of joy I could still touch. The morning of the rehearsal dinner, I texted my mom one last time. Just 2 words. "Are you coming?" No reply. We arrived at the venue early. It looked perfect. Warm string lights. The smell of lavender from the centerpieces. Tables carefully marked with names I had handwritten myself. There were seats for my parents, for Avery, even for my uncle and aunt from Seattle, who hadn't returned my calls in months. Every chair had a place card. I stared at the blank ones for too long. Rachel put her hand on my shoulder. "Don't look for them," she said gently. "Look at who's here." She was right. Ethan's parents arrived first, all smiles. His cousins trailed in, arms full of gifts and corny advice about marriage. But my side, still empty. By 6:30, it was obvious. They weren't coming. Not to the rehearsal. Not to dinner. Probably not to the wedding. I stepped outside for air, wrapped my arms around myself, and tried not to cry. Rachel followed me. "I'm so sorry," she said. I nodded. "It's fine." But it wasn't. Inside, Linda had removed the unused place cards, rearranged the seats like it was just another family quirk we'd laugh about later. She didn't say anything, just gave me a smile that said, "We're not going to let them ruin this." I loved her for that. Dinner passed in a blur. Laughter. Toasts. Clinking glasses. But I couldn't shake the empty space beside me. I told myself that was the end of the disappointment, that tomorrow would be better. That on the actual wedding day, even if they didn't come, I'd still be marrying Ethan, still creating a new beginning. But then came Rachel. The morning of the wedding, she was late. Not 10 minutes late. Not fashionably late. Gone. No calls. No texts. Hair and makeup had arrived. My dress was ready. My phone kept buzzing with messages from the florist, the photographer, the band. But not Rachel. I kept checking my phone like some sort of ritual. Refresh. Wait. Refresh again. Still nothing. At 8:30, I called her, straight to voicemail. At 9, I texted, "Where are you? Are you okay?" No response. By 10, I was pacing the hotel room in my robe, trying to breathe. I told myself maybe it was traffic, maybe something came up. But something didn't feel right. At 10:15, my phone buzzed with a notification. Instagram. I wasn't trying to check. I swear. I opened it by instinct. And there it was. Avery's story. A boomerang of champagne being poured into flutes. In the background, Rachel's laugh. Undeniable. Distinct. Heartbreaking. My stomach dropped. I clicked her profile. Nothing recent. But Avery had tagged her. And there it was. Rachel, in full glam, laughing beside Avery, holding a custom bride tribe tumbler. The timestamp. 10 minutes ago, my maid of honor was at my sister's engagement party. Not just attending, celebrating, smiling, participating. I felt something crack deep inside. Not a tearful breakdown. Not an angry scream. Just stillness. Like my heart had finally stopped trying to fight. I called her one more time. Straight to voicemail? I texted her. I saw the post. Are you really there? 3 dots. They appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then finally, the message came through. I'm so sorry. Avery asked me. I didn't know how to say no. I thought maybe I could make both work. I thought maybe it wouldn't matter. Please don't hate me. I stared at the words, then locked my phone. I didn't reply. What was there to say? She made her choice. Just like my parents. Just like Avery. Everyone I loved had lined up on the other side of the aisle before the wedding even began. It's strange. The way betrayal feels when it comes from someone who promised to never leave you. You don't feel rage right away. You feel weight. Like the world just got heavier. Like breathing takes more effort. At 11 o'clock, someone knocked on my hotel door. It wasn't Rachel. It wasn't my mom. It was Zara. We hadn't spoken in years. She was my college roommate for 1 semester before transferring to another program. I had sent her a casual invite months ago, not expecting anything. But there she was, holding 2 iced coffees and a paper bag of warm bagels. Hey, bride, she said. You look like hell, but don't worry. We're gonna fix that. I broke. I mean, really broke. Tears, shaking, the whole thing. And she just sat on the edge of the bed, handed me tissues, and let me fall apart. No questions. No judgment. Just presence. And in that stillness, in that quiet hotel room with a stranger-turned-savior and a cold coffee cup, I made a decision. I was done hoping. Done begging. Done waiting for anyone to pick me. They already had. And it wasn't me. But I was about to remind them that they didn't get the last word. Not anymore. There's a moment when you hit rock bottom where everything suddenly becomes clear. That morning, I hit mine. Standing in a hotel room in my wedding robe, makeup half done, hair in rollers, and no maid of honor, no parents, no sister, no support system. Just Zara. And oddly enough, that's all I needed. She didn't try to give me a pep talk. Didn't fill the silence with empty optimism. She just watched me crumble. And when I stopped crying long enough to sip the coffee she brought, she finally spoke. Emily, they don't deserve you. I didn't respond. She kept going. I saw Avery's post, and Rachel's, and your parents gushing in the comments like they weren't skipping your wedding, like they weren't erasing you. Still, I said nothing. Until she added, you don't have to forgive them. Not now. Not ever. If you don't want to. That made me look up. You're allowed to be angry, she said. You're allowed to be done. I nodded, slowly, like my bones were catching up to what my heart already knew. Then I asked her something I never thought I'd say out loud. Do you still work in production? Zara blinked. Yeah. Why? Because if they want a show, I said, voice tightening, then I'll give them one. The idea came fully formed. Not out of revenge, but out of truth. I'd spent my whole life keeping things quiet, making it easier for everyone else, swallowing feelings to protect the image. But that image, it had already cracked wide open. So maybe it was time people saw the real picture. Zara sat up straighter. What exactly are you thinking? I stared at the floor for a second before answering. I want to tell the story, Not just the wedding, but all of it. What it feels like to be invisible, to be the fallback, to be the girl no one chooses. Zara was quiet for a beat, then nodded slowly. "We could do that," she said. "I've got a friend at a streaming platform who's been looking for real stories. Raw ones. Stories about family betrayal, emotional abuse, dysfunction that hides under the surface." I raised an eyebrow. "That's weirdly specific." She grinned. "Because it's common. Way more than you think." I stood up. Something in me had shifted. I didn't feel fragile anymore. I felt focused. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my voice. We started recording that afternoon, just voice memos at first. Zara asked questions. I answered. She pressed record and said, "Tell me about your sister." So I did. I told her about growing up in her shadow, about the constant comparison, the missed birthdays, the forgotten milestones, the way my parents praised Avery's every move like it was holy, while treating my achievements like they were footnotes. She sat in silence as I talked, not interrupting, not rushing, just listening. Then she asked, "Do you have proof of any of this?" I blinked. "What kind of proof?" "Screenshots, emails, messages, anything that shows how they've treated you." I opened my laptop and started scrolling. There were years of texts. Messages where I begged them to show up. Voicemails they never returned. Comments they left under Avery's posts while ignoring mine. Even the email invite I sent to Rachel Time, stamped, 2 months before she claimed she never received it. Zara began organizing everything. Timestamped files, folder labels, backup drives. I watched her move through it all like a war strategist. "I can build a digital timeline," she said. "Show how you were erased systematically." It was surreal. For so long, I had convinced myself that it wasn't real, that I was just being dramatic. But seeing it laid out, every missed message, every ignored milestone, was undeniable. This wasn't my imagination. This was a pattern. And now, I had evidence. We made a plan. The documentary would be intimate, simple. A voice, a face, a truth. But the release that had to be timed. Zara suggested we do it after the wedding. "Let your day be yours," she said. Then we let them deal with the fallout. But I had one more request. I wanted to start with Avery's engagement party. Zara frowned. "You mean footage?" I nodded. "If you can get someone inside, I want them to see what she said, what she did, the way they acted like none of this mattered." Zara called one of her junior producers, a friend of a friend who had already RSVP'd to Avery's party. "I'll wire him a mic," she said. "He'll stay in the background, blend in." And that was it. The plan was in motion. In less than 8 hours, I'd be walking down the aisle, alone. No family, no maid of honor, no sister, but not broken, not silenced. Because this time, I wouldn't just survive it. I'd show it, and not for pity, not for clicks, but for every person who ever sat in the corner of a family photo wondering if they mattered. They deserved to know they weren't alone. I wasn't alone. Not anymore. I didn't walk into my wedding expecting justice. I expected silence, absence, maybe a few last-minute apologies that came too late to matter. But what I got was far louder. It started quietly, as most things do. That morning, Zara's producer, his name was Dylan, slipped into Avery's engagement party like he belonged there, mic hidden, phone recording, eyes wide open. He wasn't a spy. He was a witness. And what he caught was everything. He arrived right before guests started posting. Champagne towers, gold backdrops, hashtags like #future, Mrs. Sullivan floating across stories. And then Avery laughing into the mic, standing in front of everyone. Her dress custom, her makeup flawless, Her words. I'm just so grateful you all came to celebrate me, especially after all that drama with my sister's wedding. Laughter. She went on. She sent to save the date, then changed it. Honestly, I think she just didn't want us there. But it's okay. Some people shine alone. Others need a spotlight. Another round of laughter. And then my mother, smiling, nodding, raising her glass. Dylan caught it all. Meanwhile, I was slipping into my wedding dress alone. Zara zipped me up. Ethan's mom helped with my earrings. And then Robert, Ethan's dad, knocked gently on the door and said the words I didn't know I needed to hear. If you want, I'd be honored to walk you down the aisle. I stared at him. This man had only known me for 2 years, but he'd shown up in every way my own father never did. I nodded, tears welling. Thank you. And just like that, I didn't walk alone. I walked with someone who chose me. The ceremony was beautiful. The air was warm. The string quartet played softly. Ethan's eyes locked onto mine the second I turned the corner. The empty seats in the front row didn't matter, because every other seat was full of people who loved us. We said our vows. I told him that he was my safe place, my home, my reason to keep believing in people. He told me I was his calm in the chaos, his steady in every storm. When we kissed, I heard cheers louder than any wedding I'd ever been to. The reception flowed like magic. Dancing, food, toasts. I laughed until my stomach hurt. Until I forgot what pain felt like. But just as we were about to cut the cake, I felt a buzz in the small clutch tucked under my table. It was Zara. A simple message. It's done. You need to see this. She'd uploaded the raw footage to a private link. Just audio, with captions. Avery's voice. Clear, sharp, cruel. My mother's chuckle in the background. Rachel's comment. Well, she can't blame us now. And then, Patrick. Avery's fiancé. He had walked into the room late, hadn't heard her speech. But he heard the replay thanks to someone showing him the clip posted online. We didn't expect what happened next. He stood in front of the crowd, champagne flute in hand, and cleared his throat. The room quieted. I was going to make a toast, he said, but now I think it's more important that I tell the truth. He looked right at Avery. My fiancé lied to me. She lied to her family. She lied to all of you. The gasp started instantly. He pulled out his phone, held it up. This is the audio from earlier, the moment she mocked her sister's wedding, the one she made sure was overshadowed by this party. Silence. And you know what hurts most? His voice cracked. She told me Emily didn't invite anyone, that she pushed us away. She said it was private. But she lied. He looked around. She lied so she could be the center of attention. Then he turned to her, eyes filled with something between grief and disgust. I can't marry someone who does this, who destroys people to feel important. And just like that, he walked out. Left the party. Left her. The chaos that followed was indescribable. Phones out. People whispering. Guests leaving. Avery frozen in place. And Dylan. He stayed until the end, capturing every second. That night, after Ethan and I returned to the hotel, I watched the footage with Zara. We didn't post it. Not yet. We let the whispers build first. The rumors, the posts, the apologies that started trickling into my inbox. From extended family, from old friends, even from my dad. No one knew what to say. Because what could they say? The truth was out. Not just about the wedding, but about the years that led to it. The decades of silence, favoritism, disregard. And the way I endured it all with grace they never deserved. Zara clipped the audio and paired it with snippets from my earlier recordings. Footage of me talking about the first time my parents missed a graduation. The first birthday they forgot. The first time Avery was celebrated for something I achieved. She uploaded the teaser to her production account, tagged me, and within hours, it was viral. Comments poured in. People shared their own stories. Sisters, brothers, cousins, friends, all talking about what it felt like to be the forgotten one. And I realized this wasn't just about me. This was a mirror, held up to every quiet injustice people carry inside them. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need revenge that burned. I needed the truth. And now, the truth was doing the work for me. In the days that followed, the fallout spread faster than I expected. What started as a whisper turned into a storm. The clip of Patrick calling off the engagement right there, in front of everyone, was everywhere. People reposted it with captions like, "This is what accountability looks like." And family doesn't mean enabling cruelty. The audio from Avery's speech, it hit millions of views in 2 days. Zara's teaser series titled The Invisible Sister was trending on every platform by the end of the week. And Avery, she went dark. Deleted her Instagram. Took down her TikTok. Brand deals dropped her without hesitation. Her name became a warning, an example of what happens when you build fame on lies and then get caught in high definition. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't post memes. I didn't laugh. Because as satisfying as it was to finally be seen, none of this had been about destroying her. It had always been about reclaiming me. But not everyone took it so calmly. My mother called me 2 days after the clip went viral. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how I was. She just whispered, "I think we made a mistake." I stayed silent. Then she asked the one question that had burned in my bones for years. "Why didn't you ever tell us how much we hurt you?" I almost laughed. But I didn't. I just said you were never listening. And for once, she didn't argue. Instead, she cried. Not for Avery, not for the scandal, but for all the years she chose not to see me. My father texted. Simple, direct. "I'm sorry. If you're open to talking, I'd like to start again." I wasn't ready to reply. And Rachel, she emailed me a 3-page letter, full of explanations, guilt, regret. She said Avery told her I was planning a private elopement, that I didn't want a maid of honor anymore, that it had nothing to do with her. She believed her, without asking me, without checking once. "I should have known better," she wrote. "I'm so sorry. And I understand if you never speak to me again." I didn't respond right away. Some wounds need space before they can even begin to close. But the person I did respond to, Zara. I took her out to dinner the night the teaser hit 1 million views. We clinked glasses over pasta and laughed like women who had carried too much for too long. "You didn't just save my wedding," I told her. "You helped me save myself." She smiled. "You were always worth saving. You just needed a mic." People love to ask if I'm glad it happened this way. Would I change it, if I could? Sometimes I wish the answer was simple. Sometimes I wish all it took to heal was a viral moment or a flood of apologies. But the truth is, real healing doesn't come from public vindication. It comes from private, sometimes painful, growth. After the wedding, I moved forward. Not with bitterness, but with boundaries. I let my parents know I was open to therapy, real therapy, not just apologies. I told Rachel I'd meet for coffee, but only if we started with honesty. I drew a line with Avery. I told her she could reach out when she was ready to speak with humility, not excuses. Until then, I wished her peace, but kept my distance. Ethan and I settled into our new rhythm. There were nights I cried in his arms, grief catching up with me in unexpected waves. But there was also laughter, so much laughter, filling the space where longing used to live. I found strength in the friends who chose me, who never needed an invitation to show up. The documentary took off. Zara and I were invited to speak about family systems, boundaries, and the hidden wounds so many people carry. I started getting letters, thousands, from strangers around the world. They told me their stories, forgotten birthdays, empty chairs, the long ache of being invisible. I realized my story was not an outlier. It was a mirror. There's a power in being seen, not just online, not just in comment sections, but in your own eyes. For the first time in my life, I felt proud of the person I was becoming, not the daughter, not the sister, not the second choice, just Emily, flawed, healing, still here. Sometimes family is who shows up. Sometimes it's the ones who walk in when everyone else walks out. Sometimes it's the voice inside you that says, "You are enough." As for forgiveness, it isn't a door you swing open for anyone who knocks. It's a slow, cautious letting go, a gift you give yourself, not your betrayers. If you're listening to this and you know the pain of being forgotten, please hear me. Your story matters. You matter. You are not alone, even if it feels that way right now. I wouldn't wish my heartbreak on anyone, but I would wish this clarity, this freedom, the knowledge that you don't have to chase anyone's approval to build a beautiful life. Thank you for listening, for staying with me through the darkest parts and into the light. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share if you know someone who needs to hear they're not alone. And remember, sometimes, justice is the wedding toast you never got to give. Sometimes, healing is the invitation you finally write for yourself. That's my story. Now, I want to hear yours.